Hello fellow sim racers. I've not done one of these discussion topics videos in a while, but a few things came together recently that have really got me thinking about how sim racing can both positively and negatively impact our mental health. As I spend more and more time involved in sim racing, the subject of mental health seems to crop up more and more. The seed of this video was planted a couple of weeks ago when I was recording the Talking Sims episode with Jimmy Broadbent, where we briefly touched on the subject. Later the same day, I received this very well-timed email from a viewer called Kalpesh. Apologies for contacting you, but there's a topic I wanted to bring up with you for open discussion that I think seems to be a growing trend, especially amongst the sim racing fraternity. First of all, Kalpesh, please don't apologise for sending me video ideas. It's great to hear what viewers want to see. The topic is on time management and mental health when sim racing. I recently came across this thread on the AC forum where members were talking about how many hours they've logged with this particular franchise. I found it quite disturbing that some people have literally clocked thousands of hours playing a game and were quite happy to talk about it openly without really understanding the potential impact of antisocial behaviour. While we all enjoy sim racing and the experience it provides, I've been seeing a trend where people could be overdoing it without really understanding the consequences. I do believe that real professional racing drivers have made a career out of endurance racing, but have some form of time management that helps keep healthy relationships with the people in their lives. Unfortunately, sim racing lets you do as you want, and could allow a person to sit in front of a screen for hours or days as they wish, more so when titles such as ACC encourage endurance racing at home. I'm keen to hear your thoughts on this, and if you're in agreement, possibly perhaps a YouTube video on the topic would be a great thing for the community. In summary, enjoying sim racing is one thing, and fanaticism and addiction is another. So there's a lot to unpack there, and I'll do my best to address all of the points that Kalpesh has raised. But first up, to address the elephant in the room, mental health is, traditionally speaking, not a very manly topic of discussion. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but sim racing has a pretty hefty gender bias in the direction of those of us that pee standing up. So it's probably quite likely that this is a topic to which many of us have never really given a second thought, and until recently, I guess I was probably in that category as well. So let's start with the idea that sim racing can demand a serious amount of time. In his email, Kalpesh highlights the many members of the 1,000+ hours club, and I guess I should probably count myself amongst them. There's no doubt that sim racing provides an excellent platform for grinding away the hours. It takes hundreds of laps to learn a track or car, and there are generally hundreds of tracks and cars. So the fact that there are so many sim racers in the 1,000+ hours club is perhaps inevitable. But is the time investment inherently bad? Video games in the grand scheme of things are a pretty new thing, and I think it's fair to say that the professional world has taken quite a long time to recognise the cultural and the social impacts of the medium. But gaming addiction has been a hot topic, particularly since the rise in popularity of massively multiplayer online games. This means that the World Health Organization actually has a definition of what it describes as gaming disorder. A pattern of persistent or recurrent gaming behaviour which may be online or offline, manifested by impaired control over gaming, increased priority given to gaming to the extent that gaming takes precedence over other life interests and daily activities, and continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. Well, the first part of that certainly applies to most sim racers that I know, but the salient part is the second half, which unsurprisingly hits on all of the touch points of addictive behaviour. And this is of course something deeply personal, and if my own experiences of addiction or anything to go by, can be pretty tough to self-diagnose, or at least until things start to get out of hand. But the counterpoint to all of this is that spending time, or a lot of time, on any given activity isn't inherently bad, and that leads me nicely onto my next point. Kalpesh referred to the potential for sim racing to be quite antisocial, and when I first read it, I must admit that I had a bit of a negative reaction to those words, but he's right. While I thoroughly enjoy the social aspect of sim racing, you have to acknowledge that there are also many hours spent slaving away in practice on your own. I've been known to put in 500+ laps of practice for events that I really care about, and that sort of behaviour can become pretty unhealthy if you let it. Like with any form of training, rest time is important, and since sim racing generally takes place indoors, it's all too easy to start seeing the negative effects that are part and parcel of spending too much time inside, and of course away from natural light. According to GameQuitters.com, there are 9 signs of gaming addiction, and their website has a handy test to see if you meet the criteria. So I figured, why not see if I have a problem or not? First question, do you spend a lot of time thinking about gaming? Well, yeah, I run a YouTube channel about gaming. Number 2, do you feel negative feelings when you cut down or can't play? Thankfully, not really. Number 3, do you feel the need for more exciting games or equipment? Man, I have a serious case of gear acquisition syndrome. Number 4, have you felt you should cut back but can't? In my case, no, I love what I do. Next, have you reduced other activities due to gaming? Well, yeah, YouTube and sim racing take up pretty much all of my free time. Number 5, have you continued gaming despite the need for sleep, lateness, expense, etc.? Well, sadly, thanks to the scheduled races and YouTube, I have to say yes on this one. Number 6, essentially, have you tried to hide your addiction? In my case, no, I'm pretty open about it. Next up, do you game to escape from problems, anxiety, etc.? Yeah, but I think everyone does that. Isn't that sort of the point of escapism? Finally, have you risked or lost important relationships or opportunities because of gaming? No, and in fact, in my case, sim racing has provided me more opportunities and strong friendships than I ever thought possible. So, I meet 5 out of the 9 criteria, which, according to Game Quitters, means that I'm a borderline case. Now, if I took off my YouTube hat, I think I would have probably scraped under the bar. Of course, this is a simple online survey. It's devoid of any sort of nuance, and I don't think it's sensible to draw any concrete conclusions, but it is food for thought. Maybe I do have a borderline unhealthy relationship with sim racing. It's certainly something I've not really thought about much in the past, and I should definitely keep an eye on moving forward. But that all being said, sim racing has helped me forge new friendships, and in my case provided great opportunities to go and meet new and interesting people out in the real world. It's even provided some pretty sunny locations as well. So I think it's important with anything like this to try and maintain some sort of sense of perspective. And ultimately, like everything else in life, try and approach these things with a sense of balance and moderation. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that my interview with Jimmy had briefly touched upon the subject, and I'd like to close out the video with this clip since I think it's fantastic advice. Now, of course, I framed the question about YouTube burnout specifically rather than gaming, but I think it's really applicable here. YouTube is a pretty relentless beast. It's always demanding more content. How do you manage the burnout? I'm asking that one for a friend.
I've had burnout a couple of times. Usually when there's like a bad result or something goes wrong or I make a mistake, and it can feel pretty negative for me because YouTube is essentially like it's a very big part of my life. So if that's going wrong, then a big part of my life is going wrong, and I feel sad about it. And usually I say, and it's very hard to take this because, as you know, YouTube is relentless, and if you go away for any extended period of time, your channel suffers. But take the time off, explore other avenues. There was a point where I streamed on Twitch a couple of times, just casual games, just games that weren't racing, just so I could sit down and really chomp a bit with some people and try and get into the point where I was struggling.
Yeah, you've kind of preempted it. So guys, what's your take on this? I've tried to keep my opinion to an absolute minimum throughout the video so we can get a decent discussion going on in the comments. I'm genuinely interested to see how the community reacts to this video. Does sim racing provide a unique set of challenges from a mental health perspective? Or perhaps do you disagree with Kalpesh's premise entirely? Or maybe, and I guess this one's much more likely, you think the answer lies somewhere in between. Whatever the case guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would be great if you could hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so you can see more content like this in the future. So all that's left to say is goodbye, thank you for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.